Thanks for coming along tonight to our 14th out of 15 focus meetings. So tonight this is open to anyone, but the focus is on Franklin Thames Valley. Is there anyone who's not from Franklin Thames Valley who's just come along to spend time with us on this lovely evening? Yep. At any time, if you want to have any questions, just raise your hand. I'm Lizzie, for those that don't know me. I'm the CE of New Zealand Pony Club, been in the role for 2 years, nearly. Before that, I have got Pony Club experience going through the Pony Club system myself, and then being a Pony Club mum who was a a branch president, then a DC, and on our area committee, and stepped away from Pony Club as my daughter got older, but she kept on coming backwards and forwards, and so a bit of experience there. And with me tonight, I have got Dina.
Hi everybody, I'm Dina Wells. For those of you who don't know me, I am a member of the board. My involvement with Pony Club also started as a child when I went through the ranks of Pony Club, left that, and then my daughter joined. I joined her up when she was 7, and then and then that evolved to me being on the committee and DC and area committee, and now I am a member of the board. So looking forward to seeing some of you at conference, and I'm enjoying my role and learning lots.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for coming along and making that time to be with us tonight. So we'll get started. So especially when it's been a holiday today, so really appreciate that. Tonight's session, the purpose of tonight's session was to go over the proposed structural review that New Zealand Pony Club is suggesting, which has been done alongside the updating of the Constitution. And it is only at this point a suggestion. We're in the consultation phase, but we want to recap that. We also want to recap that if we went to a proposed 3-layer organisation, which has to be voted on by the membership, you guys, what it would look like versus a 4-layer organisation. And each area is different, and that's why the Board of New Zealand Pony Club haven't just come in and said it would look like this, this and this, because all 15 areas are completely different in how they look and how they operate. That's one thing I've taken away from these sessions, and Dina's been to most of them as well. I think she'd agree with me. No one area is the same. We want to be able to share the process and the timeline if a change in the structure was voted on by the members at the National AGM. And we also want to share the process and the timeline for updating the Constitution, no matter what the structure is of New Zealand Pony Club. So as I said, we're in the consultation phase. So the feedback is really important. The feedback from each of you individually and your members individually. We're not asking feedback as a collective club or a collective branch or a collective area. We just want to know from each of you. So this is your chance to put your voice in. And unfortunately, it says the feedback is the end of May. We've passed May. The feedback deadline is in 2 days because I have a...
Do you want to share your screen, Lizzie?
Oh, sorry, am I not?
No.
Oh, see, that's what happens when you're slightly under the weather. You forget these things.
There we
Is it
go.
going now? Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
And she's done this so many times. She's like, this should be a screen. And the feedback deadline for us, though, is only a couple of days. And that is just because we had the consultation in May, couldn't fit you all in. So we did go into June, but the board meeting date is set, where this is going to be a massive topic of discussion. All that feedback will help with whatever structure is presented, and therefore what the Constitution looks like. So if the pony clubs deciding to go, if the majority feel that a 3-layer structure across New Zealand is status quo, that is what the Constitution will reflect. Currently we're a 3/4-layer structure. And if that's what the membership wants, that's what the Constitution will reflect. That's given to you. And of course, the Constitution has to be a vote, and that will be a vote at the National AGM in August. So, the why are we doing these meetings? When Kelly and I were starting to do our introduction webinars that some of you came to, we realised that even though the board had been living this concept since November and knew about an incorporated society new constitution, but we had to wait for Sports NZ to do the mahi, to do the work, to give us the structure, that the idea of going from a four layer, 3 to 4 layer structure to a 3 layer could be quite abstract. So we really felt that we needed to show you what it could look like because it felt quite conceptual. And we had a lot of questions about what would happen to the day-to-day operations of our branches / clubs. What would it look like for that decision-making authority? What would events look like? What would communication look like? And how would NZPCA support you? So that was the purpose of these sessions. Do you want to do this one, Dina?
Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely, Lizzie. So as you all are aware that we have had to update our constitution. This is because the last constitution review was taken. You did date that, Lizzie. I can't remember that.
About 2011, and then there was an update in 2017.
Yes, so that's what we're following along from. And what Lizzie has already alluded to is that this is by law, this is legislate, so that's what we have to line up with. And the constitution that we're looking at reviewing tonight is the NZPCA constitution. So this is the governing document that's for the entire organisation, and it outlines procedures and the powers of the essential functions of the organisation. It also outlines the membership types, and this is a draft for discussion at this stage. As you can see on the screen, what it is not is that currently it's not a constitution for areas, clubs and branches, and it's not a list of membership rules and regulations. Our rules and regulations sit alongside of what we're doing. This is not also the final version. There are other things that are proposed in the constitutional change that you'll see a little bit later on in the slides.
Thanks, Dina. And I think it's really important, no matter what the layers of Pony Club look like, being 4 layers, being national body, area clubs, clubs without branches, and branches, to us, what does success look like? So our success for Pony Club is that Pony Club is thriving. So I need to say right now, Pony Club is still doing really, really well. Every year we do have in areas and clubs and branches ups and downs. And it's really a cycle of Pony Club, as you'd know from your history in Pony Club. So we want to see that Pony Club is thriving. We want to see the same amount or even more kids coming along and achieving their goals, be it staying on a rally, being it getting a certificate, being it in a team, being it is it having fun. So we want to also see that the committees are full. So we know Pony Club is thriving when committees are full, and when the only shared position in the committee is the only one that's allowed in the Constitution, which is, does anyone know, which is the only shared position on the Constitution that should be shared? Nope. The Treasurer and the Secretary are the only constitutional positions in a committee that should be shared currently. So we want to see committees that are full. If you're sitting there and you go, oh, I'm sharing a position, we're not going to come in and railroad or anything like that. It's been happening for years, but just constitutionally, it's quite interesting to know that. So that's to us what success looks like, that you're thriving, that you're passionate, that your Pony Club has its focus. And the focuses around Pony Clubs are completely different. Like I spoke to one group last night, and theirs is being a gateway into ownership. And they're really happy with that. And that's what they see, and that's where they want to stay. So for them, that's thriving. By the way, you will get the email with all the minutes as well and the slides. So here we are in the Constitution timeline. And so prior to May, we had our area forum in February where we introduced this to our areas to bring back in a bit of discussion. Before that area forum, though, there had been a lot of conversations with people and questions and a lot of listening and a lot of talking about Pony Club. This did not come just out of the blue about the 3-layer structure. It actually came back from the 2011 Constitution Review, where New Zealand Pony Club was run by a committee of management, and it went to a board of 5 elected and 2 appointed board members. At the same time, it was suggested that New Zealand Pony Club lost the club layer, and because they were 2 big projects, it was parked at the time. So, but to come back to, so we've come back to it now because a lot of people have said to us, why aren't you looking at that anymore? Come on, volunteers, we haven't got full committees, we're tired. So that is why it's not on the table. It wasn't just plucked out of the air. It just kept on coming up as a repeated conversation. So we're like, why not? Let's be brave. Let's take it out to the membership. So this in May was the consultation about if it was a 3-layer structure across New Zealand, what would it look like for your area? So being really clear here, you can be 3 layers already, but there is also the option for 4. So this was being somewhat radical for some clubs and branches. The consultation's now, and we need that feedback for that 5th of June board meeting, which is this Thursday. And I know, sorry, it's really close for you guys. So I really do need you to have it, to go off this after this and fill in the survey or do it tomorrow or the next day, because your feedback is going to tell us, does the membership support what is being proposed, or does the membership wish to remain with the current layers? And trust me, the board is listening. This is not just ticking a box. This is full consultation. And there's lots of things there that you're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And other questions about Pony Club. So out of this will become a massive amount of mahi and direction for Pony Club, only to make it better. So 5th of June. Depending on that feedback, then the board are going to decide, is it a 3-layer or is it a 4-layer what's presented to you? Because that will be the version in July that you get, and it's what will be voted upon at the AGM on the 3rd of August. It has to come out to you like all documents, like board positions on before the 3rd of July. It has to be 30 days with you guys. And in that time, this is why it's important, your members, if you're a branch, decide how your club wants to vote. Your clubs decide how your area wants to vote. And that is just at your normal monthly meeting to decide, hey, we're going to vote yes, we're going to vote no. And if there are any votes like board positions. Areas get 1 vote at the AGM, and clubs get up to 3 votes based on their riding numbers. Now that's not branches, that's clubs. So clubs without branches and clubs with branches. That's where the voting sits currently. If you can't come to the AGM in August, hopefully I'll see a few of you there. We've got some really cool presentations organised and on the works. You can electronic vote. No proxy voting, but you can electronic vote. The electronic voting information will come out in July as well at that same time. But we would love to see you. One thing that we're really focusing on for conference is practical, focused on your club and your branch operation. Okay, so it goes through in August, or hopefully it goes through, because we're only presenting what our membership has told us to present. So if it's the current structure, that's what it will be. And it will be submitted to the incorporated societies where they have to tick it off. In the meantime, in the background, one of our team with a legal background is going to be busy writing the next constitutional layers, and that tells you what your committees look like. One difference in the new incorporated society, currently a club or branch has to be a group of 15 people, of which 8 are adults. So it was meant to infer that these other 7 were meant to be children, but it wasn't clearly written. So no one ever is breaking the rules if they don't have any children at Pony Club. But in our new constitution, it's 10, and there will be a number of how many youth under 25 riders it will be. It potentially could be 5, we're not completely sure, but there will be room for negotiation for those clubs that are trying to get to that number. We don't want to see any pony clubs go, but we would need to work actively with those clubs to go, hey, your youth membership is low, we need to get it up, and we would work with you. So that would be potentially a constitutional change for that club for a period of time, like we do quorums, and that's why all the constitutions need to be checked by NZPCA down there between October and March. And if we were changing structures to a 3-layer structure, we'd be working with you to finalise what your area looks like from August all the way through to September, October. There would be documentation alongside. But do remember, at any time, clubs at the moment can merge. Clubs at any time at the moment can go off on their own, and clubs can close. And so what it is it's just the same process, but with a formalized, we'd be going 3 layers or 4 layers. Yeah. Any questions on that so far? Brilliant. Let's keep going then. So currently, this is what Pony Club looks like, and you can see that we've got the 2 sides there. We've got 15 areas spread across New Zealand. They're all completely different in land mass and size. 87 clubs, but that is mixed over clubs that have branches underneath and clubs without branches. We have 138 branches currently in New Zealand, and there's always a couple that are in the process of closing, and there's always a couple that are in the process of starting or restarting. So our examples there were based on Central Otago and Bay of Plenty, but you, in your own area, you've got Franklin District, which would be your club with branches underneath, and then you have Tuakau, which is a club without branches by itself. So you've got all the different scenarios. You're a mix. So here we go. Here's our 15 areas in New Zealand, and as you can see, it used to be 16. Gisborne Wairoa used to be not part of the Hawke's Bay. That was in about 2016, I think that happened. And you can see there, and there has been a lot of chatter through these meetings with people saying, are the areas correct? Are the areas, some of them, are they too small? Are some of them too big? With new roading, is my area in the right place now? Or if it's more urban. So that is a real conversation that we're prepared to have with people. That can happen at any time as well. We've had a suggestion that King Country, which is little but fully functional, comes to all of the meetings, comes to all the area forums, sends riders when they've got them, fully supportive, puts their riders through, that a new area in the middle there, something that takes in Taupo, which is which is for us is in the Bay of Plenty, but for council wide is in the Waikato, and South Waikato, and have a new region in there called something like Central Plateau. King Country's really keen. I'm not sure about the others. So it's those type of conversations. There's been conversations where some people think Otago Southland is a massive, massive area, and it is. Is it time it should split? Or Marlborough and Nelson West Coast, if you look at the West Coast there, it's long and narrow, and to get to their area, someone said it was easier just to go to Canterbury. So they're the conversations. And I know for you guys, you've got some very close boundaries with Auckland, especially in that Hanua, Papatoetoe, Ardmore zone. some very, very interesting boundaries there. Yeah. So these are some of the questions that people asked, and we've put them into our slide. No matter what, it doesn't matter what layers you've got in Pony Club, is this about clubs losing identity? And definitely not. Like when clubs merge or they merge, or like Te Kuiti districts, it used to be a district with 8 branches, it's now just a club with 8. They retained the names, they retained the uniforms, and they just incorporated all of the traditions and all of the cups. Is this about closing clubs? Definitely not about closing clubs. At head office, we constantly monitor clubs. So some of you may have had emails from me going, hey, I've noticed that your club is adult based, or I've noticed that your club is quite little. Um, you know, sometimes I get responses, sometimes I don't. And that's where I need the areas to really, really help me. The areas have really helped me recently with making sure that the database is up to date with the committees, because that is the hardest thing for us. Our email system is only good as the information that is on Nominate. So really important that that stays up to date. Is it about reducing events? Nope, absolutely not. Our whole focus is where the rider spends the majority of their pony club journey, and we really want to support with consistency and have really a lot of support for you guys. If there was any mergers, what happens? Well, any assets, monetary or equipment, stays within your areas and your clubs, and that's currently the rule, and that currently is what we suggest. So if a club closed, the club has a say on where the assets go. Now, I need to be really clear here. The assets cannot go outside of Pony Club. So it can't go to the local pet sanctuary. It can't go, unfortunately, to the Ronald McDonald House. The Pony Club assets were collected over time by Pony Club, and constitutionally, when you all signed your constitutions, it's actually clearly in there that they must stay in Pony Club because they are historically collected for the purpose of Pony Club. So you suggest where it goes, the board stamps it and goes, yep, go for it. If it was area, it would come down. If it was club, it would go down. If it was a branch closing, it would go sideways to the other branches or the other clubs, and we're there to support. At any time, would you be able to host events? Absolutely. As we said, the everyday running of the club and intermediate layers remains the same. If we were removing a layer, we don't imagine that anything should be affected, but we have had feedback that some places said no, would be really affected because clubs run all our events and our branches don't. So if you took the club layer out, we'd be taking that out. See, every area is completely different. So we've been learning so much every night. Why now? Well, because the Incorporated Societies Act came along and said we had to update. So we didn't actually have a choice of updating our constitution. But why are we reviewing the structure? We just felt that we may as well, because if we didn't do it now, all of those constitutions would have to be rewritten anyway. So yes, for some people it feels like it's rushed, but we're not suggesting changes until April next year. But that's also something you can give us feedback on. And, you know, are we forcing you to do this? No. This is absolutely consultation with a democratic process. So if people don't want to change the structure of Pony Club and leave it exactly the way it is, and we get success of what success looks like for us still in the 3 or 4 layers, absolutely, if that's what the members want. Okay. Right. So when we're going to the next pages and we're going to have a little play and look at your area, these are some of the questions that people have been asking and thinking about. Are the area boundaries still what we need today? So I gave you the example of King Country. You know, is King Country in the right place? You know, is Taupo in the right place? So they are the type of discussions. Is my branch or club youth focused and providing for the purpose of Pony Club? Because Pony Club is under NZ, Sports NZ, and we get funding for our focus on youth. So we're all about education, and we're happy to educate through our Horse Masters programs, and we're happy to support our adults and our coaches, but we've got to predominantly keep a focus on our under 25s because that's where our funding comes from. Does my branch or club have enough members to continue to operate? And now that I know that the numbers are 10, hopefully, that makes it easier than the 15. Is my branch or club in the right area? It's been a bit of a question from some people. It's like in Northland, no, Waitemata Rodney, there's a club right at the bottom of the Brenduins, and it's like, are they Northland or are they Waitemata Rodney? But only they can decide that themselves. I've had that kind of question with some Auckland clubs. Are we in the right area? Are some of our neighbours, Franklin, Thames Valley, are they in the right area? So also in Wellington, Wairarapa, some of those questions as well. Like Danny Verk is Wairarapa for some sports, and then Pony Club, it's Hawke's Bay. So they're the conversations, and they're conversations that don't need to be part of a structural review, but if you're doing a constitution review, it's a good conversation to have. If you'd asked me about this a year ago at Papatoetoe Pony Club Champs, I had a club come to me, a branch come to me from my own area and said it wanted to move to Franklin Thames Valley. And I was like, no, you can't do that. But a whole year later, look what's happened with changes. Okay. So the purpose for Pony Club, I think, is really important. So that's what differentiates us from our friends at ESNZ or adult riding clubs or polo. This is definitely what differentiates us, is that youth focused and the education focused. So it's about administrating Pony Club events and activities as an amateur sport. So that is definitely our key focus, is youth and amateur sports. Our certificate system, we're not saying riders have to do certificates. My own child doesn't have her certificates. To be youth focused, the welfare of the horse, the education of the horse, the coaching programs that we have, which I must say are really developing amazingly. That's what we're doing. I'll let you have a little read on it. As I said, I'll give you these slides after the fact as well. Yeah. So if we were going to a 3-layer structure of Pony Club, the 2 layers that we know work absolutely really, really well is the foundation layer. So for this purpose, we're calling it the club layer, but club/branch layer at the moment. So this is the foundation of the rider's Pony Club experience. This is where the rider spends their time, receives their instruction, works towards their certificate and their learning, and the builds community. Clubs/branches focus on regular rallies, coaching, and developing safe and capable riders, volunteers, and horses. So that's if we were removing a layer, and that would be our bottom layer of Pony Club would be the club. And that would be your decision of what it looks like. Is it your branches that become the clubs, or is it some kind of merger? And those clubs like Tuakau, there'd be little to no change. We also feel that the national layer, where we set the visions, the values and strategy for Pony Club, works well. It's the consistency and standards, it's the national competitions, the national partnerships, maintains the policies and frameworks, including safety, education and certification. One thing I've noticed is that I'd like to bring in that consistency around New Zealand, because this has been brilliant to see the differences around the country. And then we'd see that second layer as being where your area currently is now, your area/club, kind of that merge there with that governance and the oversight. So it's that intermediary between clubs and national bodies and supporting the local implementation of the national policy, but saying that any of you can directly come to head office and me anytime. We'd be looking at that extension of the riders beyond the club, those area champs, training camps, talent pathways, interclub events. We'd also like to see it as being a resource sharing where there may be coordinating of funding applications, maybe not, I don't know, might be for your teams going away. There might be ownership of shared resources across multiple clubs, because I know that does happen already, that we've got area resources. And best practice forums, so offering that platform for committee members to share and grow and have that operational knowledge to strengthen. Because I know from my time at Pony Club, I started at the branch, and then when I got a little bit of knowledge, I was encouraged to go to the club, and then I was encouraged to go to the area. So when I was there, I wasn't actually active on all three committees. I kind of stepped my way up. But how many of you now are all on three committees? Berners, yep. Ella is, yep. Louise, yep. Amazing. So, yeah, and that's one of our things, is that we're looking at removing that administrative layer to reduce the volunteer burden, because guys, I have to be honest, without you, we don't have Pony Club. You're our biggest assets. Louise, did you have a question, or you just got your hand up? So,
hand up because it's on three committees.
Yeah. You guys have been super quiet.
Don't forget, you can always write in the chat as well. Oh, yeah, true.
You shattered out, yeah. Okay, so this is basically you guys at the moment, and these are your annual figures as of March, and these are your figures that are going to be in the annual report. So your voting, when we talked about voting before, your voting is based on your under 25 numbers. So actually in the annual report, silly me, they actually split out and have under 18 and then under 25. So I'm going to have to go and do a bit more work. I was a bit gutted when I realised that. I was like, oh. So that's what you look like at the moment. You've got some larger clubs, and then you've got some smaller clubs and branches. Have we got someone from every club here tonight? Do we have someone from Ardmore? No?
Yes, I think we do.
Yep. Who's Ardmore?
Sorry, yes,
Kirsty?
I'm here. I just
Okay.
lost connection. Yes, I'm here from Ardmore.
Okay. Bombay, Papakura.
That's me and Bern.
Excellent. Hanua.
Yep, that's
Amanda's
Amanda.
here.
Yep.
Okay. And Waiuku.
Catherine?
I'm
Excellent.
Catherine from Waiuku.
And I always struggle with this one. Waialpa.
I'm here. Lizzie's Christine.
Excellent. Mercury Bay.
Yeah, I think these might be three of us.
Oh, fantastic. And Pokekawa.
Yeah, I'm here from Pukikawa.
Excellent, thank you. I always struggle with this one. Rotongaro. No, how do I say that? Ashley?
Rotanaro.
Rotanado. Anyone there? Wairanga?
Yep, I'm here.
And what about Ngatia? No, and Thames. Thames?
Yes, I'm here, Janine.
Okay.
And Catherine.
Excellent. So just no one from, was it Ngatia then?
Ngatia and Rotanaro.
Sorry, what was that last one?
Rotanaro.
Yeah,
and
so
Ngatia.
our two our smaller ones. Yeah. So this is what you currently look like. This is your current setup. So you've got a mix already. You've got a mix of 3 layers with Tuakau, Mercury Bay and Waialpa, that nothing would change for them. They're currently that structure there. But if we were going to a 3-layer structure, there would have to be some changes with Franklin District, Tikawata districts and Thames Valley districts. So I'm just going to give you some examples, just some play. These are examples only, and any names in here are just how I've kind of played with a little bit, because I don't really know your area. But if you were wanting, and under a 3-layer structure, to retain Franklin Thames Valley as your administrative layer, because remembering Franklin Thames Valley, you are operational, you send riders to Champs Week, you do zone games, you send riders to eventing champs. So, you know, to us, you're an operational area. So if you wanted to still be an area as your second administrative layer, then you'd have to be changes to what happens to your clubs and branches. So just for this example on this page, what I've done is just pulled all the branches up to clubs, left the clubs that are already clubs there, and then you see that you'd have, that would be a proposed structure for you there. It would mean though that every club along this line would need to have one representative at least to the Franklin Thames Valley Committee. So, but you'd only be on 2 committees. So nothing would change, as I said, for Tuakau, Mercury Bay or Waiapa, because they would already be coming to the Franklin Thames Valley meetings. But it would mean that Ardmore would need a representative to Franklin Thames Valley, but but there would be no Franklin District, unless you decided that you really liked Franklin District, and instead you're going, okay, well, we actually really like Franklin District, or Hanua and Bombay Papakura, like, oh, we're not actually big enough to go out by ourselves. Well, Franklin Districts would be the club, and the other 2, Hanua and Bombay Papakura, would just be venues of the club, or they would just be absorbed into Franklin District, depending on what your councils do for you and things like that, because every place around the country is completely different. And so what happened, an example, Monganui in Northland, they were a combined new club out of Kaitaia and Awanui. So they became Monganui, but their council said you can still have Kaitaia grounds and the Awanui grounds, and you can have rallies at both. So it opened it up for their riders. So that would be a selection of this, where you would say what worked for you, with Franklin Thames Valley being still your area there. And I only just use these based on numbers, and it might be completely wrong, but it was just me not having a bit of a play, and I might be so wrong that you're so far away from each other as well. But they were just examples as if you wanted Franklin Thames Valley. You know, also here, do any of these move areas? Do any of you say, actually, ka kite, see you later, Franklin Thames Valley, no offence, but we think we belong in Auckland instead, or does someone in Auckland belong in Franklin Thames Valley? Because roading has changed. I know I've got a club here that wants to potentially come your way and be in Franklin Thames Valley, because they feel that they're more in the Coromandel than they are in the Bay of Plenty, being at the end of the Western Bay. So it's all of those discussions. So this is just an example. If you retained that layer, you could look like, I'll just get my thing to go back. Nope, wrong one. That all stand alone by yourself, or all stand alone by yourself, like, or be like this. But this is dependent if a 3-layer structure was voted on and the Constitution said that would be it. So the light blues don't need a committee. The dark blues are the committee. The light blues are only venues. But I know that some of them have grazing. Does anyone own their own grounds of those?
Yes, Waiuku do.
So Waiuku you do. So you'd, no matter what, you'd be wanting to try and stay as much independently as you can, because, or, you know, or stay under the Franklin here, because your grounds are owned as an asset.
Correct.
Yeah. And no matter what, the ultimate thing would be there, with grounds that are owned as part of Pony Club, our focus is on keeping those grounds and supporting those clubs as much as we possibly can. So that would be scenarios there of second layers, or you could actually go, well, actually, no, we don't want, you know, our area, we don't want to be Franklin Thames Valley anymore. We could actually be Franklin and Thames Coromandel, and we could still have, so we're only got still 2 committees. Ardmore would only be on a committee to Franklin, and Thames would only be on a committee to Thames Coromandel, but noting that, you know, Ngatea is really little, and I don't have great communications with them, that they might no longer be here, but this is where I've put that other club potentially. But these are all options. All of you could be up on the right line. This is just as an example of splitting. So it wouldn't be Franklin Thames Valley, it'd just be 2 cluster/hubs there. I don't think I did another one. So it would really depend on what you felt would be your best model. And yesterday when I was working with another club in another area, they said to me, we don't want to have to help that club do activities anymore. We don't want to be on their cycle of going to their events or having to help out and having to be on their committee and that we want to go it alone, because our focus is on starting young ones and just being education, and it's not a bad relationship or anything like that. And they're just like, but we've got no one who wants to go and be part of that event. And I know that you guys have very historic events, like you have your Balladine for your, and you could still potentially run that by running it, still having it, but instead of it being under whatever umbrella it is, it would be over the collective umbrella. But that's just the scenarios we've been playing with if you were 3-layer structured. But if you think that you're perfectly great in a 4-layer structure, we would understand that, and you would give us that feedback and say, no, we don't want to change. We don't support the change.
Is there any questions? No.
If you went to, I do, if you went to your 3-layer structure, and for example, I know I don't know how Thames Coromandel feel, but if you went to the one where you've kind of moved Franklin into 2, how would that work for teams going off to champs, like dressage?
I was waiting for that, so thank you.
I mean, to me, that's a whole part of Pony Club, right? The kids love that. They thrive.
So one of our big focuses is every year reviewing teams, and you guys are really active and you send teams. We want to make sure that areas continue to remove barriers and let riders go to events that have their NQSs. So instead of, if you only had 6 riders but you had 10 riders, and you guys are really great at this and you bring extra riders all the time, that you'd still potentially, same thing, they'd all ride and they'd still could ride under the traditional umbrella being Franklin Thames Valley, but you don't actually need an incorporated society to ride under Franklin Thames Valley as such. You don't need a committee called Franklin Thames Valley to ride under the Franklin Thames Valley umbrella. But you'd be like looking and going, who's got the NQSs? And Franklin would be going, well, we've got 6, and Thames Coromandel would be going, we've got 6, and you're all going. But now you're going to say to me, who's in the team? You're all in the team, like at Venting Champs, you're all in the team. And instead of being the traditional of, oh, we've got 6 named riders, and those 6 riders are the only one who's going to get collective scores, potentially thinking different and going, we've got 12 riders, we've got 4 in this category and 6 in this category. Our top 2 in each category are the ones that we're taking the scores for today. Potentially, they have been some of the discussion points, but more like the inter-school competition. So they each earn points and still ride under the non-incorporated Franklin Thames Valley area.
The other bonus here to this model that Lizzie's put up is, I suppose, having voting rights. because as Franklin Team Valley, there's only one vote. But this way you've then split it a little bit more, and then you haven't got as many delegates that are going up to the meeting, because often it's very hard to get delegates to the meeting. And when you've got your whole row, which is in the slide beforehand, going to the meeting, it makes for a big meeting.
Yeah, like currently voting rights, if you were thinking voting rights, Franklin districts gets 3 votes at an AGM currently, at a NZPCA AGM. If Ardmore was by itself, it gets 1 vote, Bombay gets 1 vote, Hanua gets 1 vote, and Waiuku would get 2 votes. So that'd be 2, 3, 4, 5 votes versus 3 votes as a collective club. So that does happen. Branches don't get to vote independently unless they're clubs. Wailepa gets 3 votes, Mercury Bay gets 1 vote. It's based on under 25 and under, 26 to 49 and 50 and over is the voting system currently for New Zealand Pony Club. But, you know, that's only votes that you use at this type of meeting and at this type of voting for the board. But, you know, going back to events, one of the big things that we have to do is we constantly have to review our events, because if we continue to do things as we are, and if we're only sending full teams, which you guys don't do, you know, you're not just sitting there going, oh, we can only send them if we've got a team. We're only sending them if we've got a full team. You're great, you send people. But if we only encouraged people to send teams, our events wouldn't be happening. And that's one of the things, is not removing the barriers as in they don't have their NQSs, but removing the barrier of, oh no, they can't go because there's no team. And I have heard that this year quite a few times and around the country. Oh, we didn't send a team because we only had 1 rider. It's like, send the 1 rider.
Totally.
You know, but if this works for you, then you wish to retain the same way, you can easily, you vote that way. But at any time, if any of these clubs here wanted to go out by themselves and no longer be under their club umbrella, let's say Waiuku went, actually, we want to go and stand up by ourselves on this line. You can already do that right now. It's just breaking away from your club. And that happened. Paranga Pony Club used to be part of Cambridge Pony Club and decided to move away. And so they negotiated and became a club by their own selves. And they got some monetary assistance, but not a huge amount, because they were the ones that initiated breaking away. And that's the same. I've got a couple of places saying, well, we'd like to move areas. And it's like, you might not necessarily go with some type of dowry. You'd go with your club money that you've got, but I can't guarantee that you'd go with money from your area, because it's not a split out like that. Yeah. So you've kind of got a mix here. You've got those 3 clubs that nothing would change for. I guess you've got a couple of small clubs. You're probably one of our biggest areas in the country that have horse masters. Probably the biggest percentage in the country with horse masters. And so it's just what works for you currently going on. Yeah. So as we said, we're in that consultation phase. So we need feedback from you all. I'm going to take you there right now. Sorry, I'm going to take you to the right page. Oh, the bar's in the way. Okay, so if you're looking for anything about the Constitution, I'll also point out what other changes, because the Constitution is going to be presented and voted on as a collective document. So there are a couple of other changes in the Constitution that we haven't discussed tonight, but they are here in these slideshow. So the proposal of the change is that membership structure, reducing 1 layer. but that's what we're asking you in the survey for. That we're also trying to clarify the disputes process, and that the current process is really vague and outdated, and we're moving it to be in line with Sports NZ best practice. We don't actually have a choice, we have to. And so that would be that if the dispute is defined as being under some other form of legislation, say it's an assault, then it would be handled by the New Zealand Police and not New Zealand Pony Club. So it would depend on the avenues of where the dispute falls. So if it was at one of an event, it could fall under our yellow card system. But if it was I'm trying to think of one. Yeah, something civil, or then it would fall outside. Yeah. And then the big one here is that currently we have a presidential role in New Zealand Pony Club. It's a figurehead. That person's position is coming to an end this year. So it's a 3-year cycle, and David has finished his 3 years. So he's not being asked to be removed or anything like that. But it's something that was left over from the Committee of Management, where it was a Committee of Management and they had a president. And then after that, they brought in a general manager and a CE. So they're looking at that presidential role being no longer part of it, but looking at a New Zealand-based patron. We've currently got 2 patrons. One's Mark Todd and one's Janelle Price. So it'd be great to have a patron who's in the country who can come to events. And the board chair would chair the AGMs, because that's the role that the president currently does. So that's where the changes are. You've also got there 22 pages of questions and answers. So if you've got questions about it, that's all there. All of the other recordings there, but if you want to take this, I need you to take the survey. You don't have to put your name in, but if you have a question that you want answered, I do need your email. Otherwise, I won't be able to respond to you, your email and your name, because I won't be able to respond. Excuse me. Sorry. Sorry.
Bless you.
It does ask you what area you're from, your best describes your role, and then how do you support the simplification of the structure by reducing the number of layers? Do you strongly support, somewhat support, neutral, somewhat opposed, strongly opposed, not sure? You have a chance to answer questions. You don't have to, and any comments you want to make. And that is really important, because the board are having their meeting on Thursday to decide how to proceed, and they are listening. If you're thinking about coming to AGM, hopefully lots of you are, the information is here. We can give you a letter of support for a funding application if you're coming. Registration's here. All of the details about it are here. Very soon we'll have some of our workshops up on board. And there are our packages and all of that information. So hopefully we see you there. And if you are there, you will be at the AGM voting. If you're not at the AGM, it will be postal voting. Just noting, if you are in Christchurch, that the AGM is free, but only the AGM is free. That 1 hour. Come along for an hour. It's free. So if you guys don't have any questions, what's happened? Oh, here we go. If you don't have any questions, I don't want to keep you on a Monday night, but happy to answer questions from you all.
And just backing up what Lizzie says, remembering the survey is for all members. Each and every one of you need to go and fill it out as an independent person, and every member can go and do that survey. And it is super important, because that is what we will be discussing, thinking at length on Thursday when we get together at our board meeting. So any more questions? Any questions actually?
Oh, I'm just curious, is it Catherine from Thames here?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, we don't really want to do our own little thing on the Coromandel, do we? Or what's your view?
Are you asking us? Yeah.
So also, they are decisions that I know that you probably wanted to have a bit of an idea of what you'd want to do as an area, but actually that they don't have to be.
They happen later. Yeah.
Yeah, they do happen later, and they're only suggestions, because I have been to ones where people are going, actually, our area is far too big, and so I've been giving that suggestion to everyone. Like in the Bay of Plenty, it was like, oh no, in Waikato it was northern Waikato, central Waikato, and southern Waikato.
Yeah.
But most of the feedback we've been getting, people want to retain the area layer as the administrative layer. So if they're wanting to retain that area, the layer of area as the administrative layer, then what happens to then it's the club layer that something has to happen to. It's in here, it's one of these has to go here. So if Franklin Thames Valley is staying, and that's what most people are saying, Tuakau doesn't need to do anything, New Mercury Bay doesn't do anything, Waialpa doesn't need to do anything, but it has to be that decision of what happens to Franklin districts, what happens to Tikawata district, what happens to Thames Valley district. And if Ngatea isn't communicating, and maybe they are with you guys more than they are with me, if they don't reincorporate themselves on the April the 6th, the registrar will come in and close them. That's what will happen to them. And then it will go through the registrar and it will take a long time, but their assets will basically be frozen and distributed.
Okay.
So that's why we need to, those clubs that aren't engaging with us, Ashley, as the area president, you've got a bit of a hard job, and so have your districts, to get them on board to go, hey guys, this is not just an ignore situation, because if you do ignore, you will cease. They will cease.
Okay. Yeah. Ngatea, unfortunately, Rachel's on holiday at the moment, overseas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
we'll try and touch base with her and have a conversation with her.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think I've tried to engage in a few emails and things like that previously. So yeah, because we're prepared to, got some other small clubs and we've given them some major suggestions of what to do, and it's just, yeah, they're kind of booming a little bit, but they've got to have some marketing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but if they don't engage and they just disappear, and that's the worst thing that can happen, is when clubs disappear, because they've actually got pony club assets that you guys have that has been historically accumulated.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll get in touch with Ngatea, and then we've got a couple of days, hopefully, that we can try and get a response from them.
Yeah, and the worst case scenario for us at New Zealand Pony Club is that we won't actually present the structure, and there won't be any change. That might happen. That might not even be structured, and then but at any time, any of you can go, well, actually, we'll go out by ourselves. We'll go and do this by ourselves, because we'll reduce the layer ourselves. And I've already had areas and clubs say to me, that is what we'll do no matter what. You've given us an idea of how to reduce the volunteer burden and what success looks like, so we want to do it no matter what. And that's up to you guys if it didn't become an enforced, voted on. And it has to be voted on to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so if you guys have got no more questions for us, we don't want to keep you on I was going to say Monday night, when work's tomorrow.
Tim's birthday.
Yeah. And we'll see some of you at the coaches conference next weekend. Yep.
Thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
very
gotta
much.
Thank
catch
you.
up about quiz.
Thank
So
you.
thanks everyone.
Bye.
Really
Thank you,
appreciate
Lizzie.
that. Looking forward to
Thank
seeing you
you.
all. And yeah, please go and do that survey.
Thank you.